The month of August ain't finishing cooking, and it's already serving another batch. Some familiar, some unexpected, and a few worth actually keeping. Hello friends, welcome back, this is Mobo, and today we're going to be checking out more than 20 new mobile games of August for Android and iOS. So first things first. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Goblin Spirit's now finally out, and we're halfway. We're at least glad to report it's a pretty loaded game to begin with. So it's the first 6 JoJo generations together in a tactical RPG where positioning is basically the whole game. It's the goal. It's JoJo turned into a big collectible strategy, and the fan sub is actually doing some serious heavy lifting since release. Probably the closest thing JoJo fans have to a proper mobile RPG built around the series. There's PvP, world bosses, PvE, basically underneath all the JoJo insanity, it is a surprisingly deep little strategy gem to go with.
A mystic fog shrouds the valley.
At second hands, Arena Breakout VNG is now finally global, and this is still one of the more serious tactical shooters you can actually put on a phone to play. Season 13 just landed and added a fog-covered PvE mode, new areas, monsters, special loot, and anniversary rewards including new melee gear and outfits. It's a pretty big 5GB download, but if you want a proper extraction shooter on mobile, there's absolutely one to check out, especially if you haven't already played it. It's a little over 2 years than an overwhelmingly positive score on Steam, but the wait almost over. Little Kitty, Big City is basically the perfect game to play on the go now. In case you missed this thing here, you play as a little house cat 2 falls from your apartment and has just one simple goal, which is to get back home. Getting home though means exploring an open world, helping animals, collecting stuff, stealing, annoying people, and just behaving like a cat. It is a pretty wholesome game. Funny, genuinely relaxing as well, with enough personality to make this like one surprisingly hard not to love. Check it out, it's offline, $9.99, it's coming out by the end of the week. This took, I'm not sure how long, maybe half a year already, but a space for the Unbound is now finally out on the Google Play Store. Previously it was just the Apple Store version, it was a pretty decent port too, and this is probably one of the strangest combinations of high school drama and just basically saving the whole arcs that you will ever experience. The pixel art's just beautiful, the character's actually a personality, there's a surprisingly emotional story beneath everything as well. The first chapter is completely free, definitely worth giving a shot, the rest is a premium package. So look guys, War Robots just decided that summer needed more robots and significantly more actions as well. Developers just came out with a new patch called the new Sun, Sea, Steel, bringing a bunch of just new toys to the battlefield, including Fang, a 4-legged robot that can cloak itself with getting up close and absolutely ruining everything. There's also new Titan, new drones, shotguns, and upgraded versions of the older characters. War Robots, in case you missed it, still finding ways to add more, and this update's just a pretty darn good excuse to jump back in, and overall just a pretty darn good multiplayer mech shooter in general.
Tradition.
Servant of the Lake is finally out today on Android and iOS, and it's a little different for those of you who experienced the previous games because this is basically Rusty Lake giving you the front door key and letting you snoop around before the real story begins. If you played Rusty Lake games before, this feels immediately familiar, and if you haven't, this is a pretty damn good introduction to the series as well. It's just now you as a newly hired servant handling ordinary chores until it's everything but. Check it out, it's offline, takes you $4.99. We're pretty glad to report once and for all, this is the last time we're going to mention this game, that Caravan SandWitch is now on Android and iOS globally. Just one first and final note, you're going to be needing to use a controller. The mobile touch controls have been getting plenty of criticism, while controller support feels much more natural. And for $6.99 offline with the full game unlocked through one purchase, this is a pretty easy recommendation if you want something genuinely just relaxing. There's no combat here, no death, no timer. You can actually take your time and explore instead of constantly being chased by something. Pretty good game actually. Up at number 8, Duriano has been one of the most successful PC to mobile ports of 2026 so far, with nearly 500,000 downloads in less than a month. In fact, it was so well received that developers finally went the extra mile and ported it on the Apple Store yesterday, and it's hitting the global scene starting today. So for those of you who missed it, it sort of takes the usual Survivors formula and gives it a Norse makeover, but not the serious kind, you know. You just pick a hero, enter arenas with enemies from Norse mythology, turn yourself into an absolute menace as you go. The real goal also is to make it all the way up to Cert, so everyone becomes a sort of a balancing act. It's a pretty fast game, flashy, cute too. If you like Survivor style games but want something lighter, this is it. Mojo is one of those mobile RPGs that just wants to do more than just prove it's better than just designing a roster. So to begin with, it's actually a pretty dark presentation with witches that are trapped in these repeating timelines while you slowly uncover what's actually happening behind this supposedly normal world as its backdrop and story. It's a vertical game, it's one-handed, online, very much a gacha RPG, but that extra creepy atmosphere gives Mojo a personality most of these games desperately to an extent lack. It's 4 GB in total, available now on Android and iOS. Up at number 10, we've got Fabledom, which is a city builder sim here, still up and coming to mobile, and it's pretty neat. Whereas instead of another spreadsheet kingdom, you're actually destined to build a fairy tale kingdom populated by all sorts of crazy nonsense, just pigs, giants, gnomes, all sorts of bizarre, and you can even romance rival rulers, which can unlock different quests and buildings along the way. You're gonna be starting with a tiny little settlement, gradually turning into a proper kingdom, and it's got all the junky elements, you know, you could pack into a single game. It's offline, coming to Android for $9.99, one of the finest games in the making right now. On another hand, in fact, Race Riot is for anyone who thinks normal racing games are taking the whole driving thing too seriously, whereas you've got monster trucks, tractors, forklifts, buggies, and hovercrafts even, flying around the tracks with ramps, obstacles, and shortcuts, and even automatic steering, keeping things a little nice, more simple. It's still a demo though, but for a free and an offline arcade racer, this already feels like a pretty entertaining little time waster. The only problem is that it's available now only on Android. With that being said, Kick Buds at number 12 is in fact Konami taking football, throwing out the rulebook, and turning it into a 3 versus 3 versus 3 party brawl type of game, where 3 teams fight over multiple balls and the first sight to 5 goals takes the match. There's also then a party royal where 8 players go through different challenges like races and target practices with 3 rounds standing between you and the win. And you can also play the game solo or with friends. I'd argue it is one of the more interesting multiplayer games on mobile right now. Check it out, it's still in a beta. Crossgate Mobile is one of those releases that feels like it came straight out of a time capsule. In fact, the original Crossgate debuted back in 2001, and now 25 years later, this classic MMORPG is finally out on Android and iOS. To our good luck, the mobile version actually kept the original turn-based combat, the systems, the pet collecting, and the multiplayer, while adding plenty to do outside of the fighting. And just overall, seeing this thing return on mobile is pretty darn good. The open beta begins today, in selected regions of course. The full game is coming out by the end of the month. Hyper Demon at number 14 is one of those games where the entire point is pretty much right there in the name, where you're sitting on the back of a pickup, shooting demons with everything from a shotgun and a revolver and a ridiculous 50 cal, while trying to keep enough cash coming in to pay for your next batch of ammo. The shooting is pretty simple, it's direct, satisfying, it doesn't try to bury the game on the systems, you just pick a weapon, aim well, keep firing, and enjoy the grind. It's a free game, it's playable online, takes you 170 megabytes in total. At number 15, we've got this thing called Slots and Daggers, which sounds a little ridiculous on paper, but the idea actually works really well. First of all, it's a new game. It's a chance-based adventure from the same folks of the famous PC mobile port Clover Pit, where this time instead of choosing your own weapon, you spin a slot machine and whatever comes up becomes your gear for that fight. So you're constantly making the best of whatever the machine gives you. Mixing weapons, minigames, some genuinely strange fantasy characters along the way to meet. It's got that addictive roguelike loop, and it's hella addictive. Check it out, it's available now for the price of $4. Goblet Rush at number 16 here is a pixel art arcade shooter and is built around one simple goal. You grab a goblet, get the hell out of there before the time runs out. The game is just pretty straightforward. It's smooth, great, built around that satisfying arcade loop of one more run, one better score, and a bunch of fun mechanics to learn and master with. You've got slow motion abilities, about 20 dungeon stages, permanent upgrades, and just a ton of rewards along the way. Pretty good game, it's free, it's actually offline. So on another hand, we've got Cardboard Dash. As you can see, it actually looks like someone built a whole racing game out of stuff just lying around the house. You know, the tracks, the characters, the cars, everything has that handmade cardboard look, but actually underneath that there's a proper kart racer too. It's designed to be easy enough for newcomers while still giving you something to master, and it also supports cross-platform play between mobile and PC. Check it out, it's coming out fully in about 2 days. Preserve Complete Edition at number 18 is the kind of game you fire up when you want your brain working without feeling like you've been assigned homework. You know, it's got puzzles, classic and creative modes, you get in to solve specific challenges, just sit back and build something pretty if you like. And this Complete Edition, in fact, is the good stuff. All the release content, no ads, no extra purchases, pretty peaceful game, strategic, ridiculous easy to lose hours into, it's actually fully playable offline. On another hand, at number 19, we've got War State FPS, which keep things pretty nice and pretty simple, where you pick a class, grab a gun, get into team death matches, and that's all. Nothing revolutionary here, it's just mobile FPS games don't always need to reinvent the wheel, and this one does a pretty good job just proving that. It's free on Android, online only, pretty straightforward pick up and shoot multiplayer, lots of weapons, quick matches, pretty good, almost perfect for on-the-go play whenever you've got a few minutes to spare. At number 20, we've got Quick Squad, which is basically what happens when somebody looks like a zombie shooter decides the hero should be a chicken. I mean, not a chicken, a duck. So the enemies are the chicken, actually. It's an arcade shooting game. What you're watching is real gameplay. Pretty straightforward, lots of comedy, bunch of mini games, plenty of upgrades, giving it that old school browser game feel where like you just jump in, cause nonsense for 10 minutes, move on with your life like a few minutes later. It's an online game, about 300 megabytes in total. It's available now on Android only. Now, with that being said, Suikoden is now finally available on Android and iOS. And as of today, we're halfway happy to report that, first of all, it is not a lazy port spin-off wearing the same name. Starleap is in fact a brand new enemy in the series that, for those of you who missed it, actually brings back the old classic Suikoden feeling of building a huge cast around you, watching the story slowly getting dragged into something much bigger than where you started, and it's actually free. In fact, with most players calling the game already a 10 out of 10. Check it out. Starleap launched in Japan, so technically it's already live, but the global rollout, however, is still sort of separate. If you think idle RPG games have officially run out of weird ideas, well, here's a cat trying to rescue his butler. In fact, Cat Butler just dropped on Android, not globally however, that's gonna happen by the end of the week. It sort of takes the familiar idle RPG formula and gives it a pretty surprisingly fun twist. So you're basically building this cat mage, blasting through enemies with magic, unlocking new abilities, slowly becoming ridiculously overpowered while the game just does half the work for you. Pretty simple game, it's an idle RPG, it's just cute, looks like the kind of game you open for a few minutes, but end up sticking for hours. Soldier Defense is basically tower defense after someone finally remembered the towers aren't supposed to do all the work. Meaning you're there on the battlefield, dodging, picking off enemies, grabbing skill cards as you level up, build your own combinations of abilities as you go. And between runs, then you also can upgrade gears and go for some longer plays. Pretty quick game, hands-on, actually makes you feel like you're defending a real base instead of just supervising a spreadsheet. It's an online game, about 400 megabytes in total. With that being said, Emerald Flower takes survival RPGs somewhere a little darker than the usual routine. You play as a child trying to survive after losing everything to war. Now you're scavenging, crafting what you need, and deciding how to treat the people still hanging on in a broken civilization. And those choices actually matter, with different characters having their own stories and multiple endings depending on what you do. The pixel art then also gives it a little more depth and old school feel. It's a free game, it's offline, 150 megabytes in total. Give it a solid 8, it's actually a surprisingly serious RPG. And finally, at number 25, we've got over here Waterline. It's just one of those ideas that sounds ridiculously simple by even just looking at it until you actually play it. Whereas, you don't steer the boat you see there, you draw the water, create slopes and waves, build speed on the way down, launch off. You just basically use momentum to shoot back the boat up in the air. It's a free game, it's offline, one-handed with no ads. Honestly, just a kind of little mobile indie game that just gets the whole idea right. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, you've been great. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again tomorrow.